On Beyond Stardom this time, 5 household names who do far more than collect fat paychecks. This multi-million-dollar budget man made his first feature film for just $400 at the age of 16. 6 years later, Steven Spielberg became the youngest director ever to be signed to a long-term contract with a major Hollywood studio. Social responsibility as a filmmaker was clearly not high on his list of priorities when he chose to ruin beach holidays for generations to come with his 1975 shark shocker, Jaws. But 18 years later, after a dream run of big box office crowd pleasers, he was ready to use his attention-grabbing talents for good instead of evil. Schindler's List earned Steven his first Best Director Oscar and changed his whole approach to making movies.
So, involved in filmmaking all my life that I never really had a cause, so to speak, that I could believe in and support and, devote so much of my life to. And when this came along, that's when I say it changed my life. I found my soul.
He was so transformed by Schindler's List that he used the box office profits to set up the Shoah Foundation, a not-for-profit organization dedicated to filming and archiving the testimonies of Holocaust survivors.
It's an exact science of translation, of trying to represent word for word and emotion for emotion what these survivors have spoken to our videographers about and our interviewers about.
The process of making the film made him realize the importance of empowering survivors and remembering their stories.
Wait a minute, why can't we go all around the world and find everybody willing to talk to us to acquit themselves and history of what happened to them? Let them transition from victims to educators.
Since truly plugging into his Hebrew heritage, Steven has been on a mission to raise awareness of events in recent history that have rocked the Jewish culture to the core. In 2005, he gamely grasped the hot potato of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Munich took on the task of dramatizing the Israeli government's response to the massacre of 9 of its athletes in the 1976 Munich Olympics. In doing so, he not only risked inflaming the anger of Palestinian militants, he also drew criticism from Israeli groups for morally equating the terrorists with the men sent to assassinate them. But Steven was resolute in his determination to spark debate.
I think this film is relevant for today, and this movie is not an argument for non-response. And on the contrary, what this movie is showing is that a response that may be the right response is still one that confronts you with some very difficult issues. And when we have to respond to terror today, what's relevant is the need to go through a careful process, not to paralyze ourselves, not to prevent us from acting, but to try and ensure that the results that we produce are the ones that we really intend. So what I'm doing with this movie is highlighting some of the dilemmas and highlighting some of the issues that need to be discussed. I'm not trying to answer them, but the movie, in a sense, apart from being a human drama which explores what these guys went through, will hopefully stir that discussion.
In 2006, he produced a documentary about the Nazi massacre of thousands of Jews at the Babi Yar Ravine in Ukraine to mark the 65th anniversary of the tragedy.
I really have no good excuse for why this is my first visit. All of my grandparents came from here, as you probably know. They came from the Ukraine, and on my mother's side and my father's side. And I was brought up in a home where grandparents only spoke Russian and Yiddish.
And he used the example of the Babi Yar massacre to remind people of the tendency of history to repeat itself and of our responsibility to speak out.
People allow this to happen. They allow this to happen by not asking enough questions, by being afraid to speak, by being afraid to be punished if they really speak their hearts and their minds. And it's happened before. It happened in the 20th century with the Holocaust. It happened in the early 20th century with the Armenian debacle. It happened in Rwanda. It happened in Sarajevo. It happens.
glamorous Tomb Raider has been quoted as saying, "I am still at heart and will always be just a punk kid with tattoos." It may seem hard to believe now, but Angelina Jolie was initially turned down from modeling agencies. She dropped out of acting classes at the age of 14, dyed her hair purple, and moved in with her boyfriend. But by 16, she'd returned to acting and scored her first role as a German dominatrix. Her first leading role in a major film came at the age of 20 in Hackers. She's gone on to win 3 Golden Globes and an Oscar and star in a raft of big-budget flicks. Yet it is the things that Angelina gets up to off-screen that have earned her the most column inches. Since she divorced Hackers co-star Johnny Lee Miller and married Billy Bob Thornton, the media have been obsessed by her love life, and Angelina has helped fan the flames with her long-running affair with Japanese model Jenny Shimizu. But after she and Billy Bob parted ways, the gossip magazines were desperate to hook her up with everyone.
No, sometimes, I think it's more the world we live in, that people seem more focused on what people are wearing and who people are dating than other things in the world. So I'm less frustrated about it for me personally, more just thinking about that that's society. So it's strange.
But the world's sexiest woman gave the trash weeklies plenty to gossip about when she signed up to star opposite her male equivalent in the comic thriller Mr. and Mrs. Smith. In the face of all evidence to the contrary, Angelina insisted the mutual admiration was purely professional.
What I feel about him, I think he's amazing. I think he's a great actor. He's a wonderful guy. He's funny. He was a joy to come to work with. He's great.
But within months, she and Brad Pitt were shacked up together, and Jennifer Aniston was filing for divorce. Within a year, Angelina had broken with her tradition of adopting her children from the third world and confirmed that she was pregnant with Brad's baby, Shiloh, who was born in September 2006. But having her own biological child didn't spell the end of Angelina's adopting antics. In March 2007, she rescued 3-year-old Pax from an orphanage in Vietnam.
I do love to adopt, and it feels very natural for me to adopt children. You know, my son is my son, and so I think if children need a home, to adopt them is wonderful. You know, and I will be looking into you know, the orphans that have just lost their parents, but you know, always wherever there's a need. So we'll see how big my family grows over time.
Nor have the responsibilities of caring for her swelling family dented her incredible commitment to a staggering number of humanitarian causes. While the media feed hungrily on rumors of eating disorders, mental problems, and relationship strife, Angelina is out saving the world in her capacity as Goodwill Ambassador for the UN's High Commissioner for Refugees. In 2005, she and Brad visited casualties of the Kashmir earthquake in Pakistan.
This is from the earthquake?
From the earthquake, yeah.
She had multiple surgeries of both the arms. So, not complicated cases were sent to us.
Is she feeling better? How is she feeling?
बेटे आप सही हो? तबीयत कैसी है?
The terrain in this area, because I know in different parts of the world you can do.
Not long after, she and Brad were off to Haiti to visit a school and detention centre in Port-au-Prince. They were there to support the efforts of Wyclef Jean's charity programme, which aims to give children in the violence-ravaged country more opportunity.
Given just a little chance and given a little help, that this is going to be an amazing country, as it should be and as it once was.
It was on this trip that she granted People magazine first rights to her visibly apparent baby bump in return for a $500,000 donation to Wyclef's charity. Over the last few years, she's taken on missions to Tanzania, Russia, Sri Lanka, Sudan's Darfur region, Thailand, Lebanon, and Beirut. Most recently, she witnessed firsthand the plight of Iraq War refugees stranded in the blazing desert near the Syrian-Iraqi border. She covers all the costs for those missions herself, as well as donating millions of dollars from her Hollywood earnings to the causes she supports. Clearly deserving of the UN award she received in recognition of her tireless devotion to humanitarian work, Angelina herself was embarrassed by all the fanfare.
I find it a kind of a strange thing to get an award for this kind of work. So I was just, I was a bit shy about it and coming out, but then I realized it was a great organization, so I just wanted to join the evening. But I still find it a bit strange. Thank you very much.
This usual suspect started his career performing stand-up comedy in bowling alley talent contests. He went on to get a solid grounding in live theatre and musicals before graduating to the big screen and becoming a household name by playing back-to-back killers in 1995's Seven and The Usual Suspects. He consolidated his A-list status with a Best Actor Oscar for his portrayal of the middle-aged resistant Lester Burnham in American Beauty in 1999. Since then, Kevin has proved himself equally reluctant to lay back and revel in his superstar status. In 2004, instead of sunning himself on a tropical island sifting through scripts, he was slaving away to bring his lifelong dream project to fruition, co-writing, producing, and starring in the Bobby Darin biopic, Beyond the Sea. He even ended up directing the film.
I didn't intend on directing it. It just felt to me because the directors I wanted to have do it couldn't do it for years, and I knew if I didn't do this movie last year, I'd never get a chance to do it. So it felt to me, and I'm glad I did it. It was an incredible experience, but I couldn't have done it without all those people on that poster and a lot of people on the end credits of this film.
Driven by his great admiration for the big band star who died in 1973, reintroducing Bobby Darin to the world was a labor of love.
Because I think he is really probably one of the last great all-around entertainers that we ever had. And because he died at the age of 37, he's largely been forgotten. I mean, people know his music, but they don't know anything about Bobby. The trajectory of his work, how much incredible and impressive different genres of music that he hit over the years. So I hope this movie turns the spotlight back onto Bobby Darin.
Kevin also did all his own singing and dancing and performed several tribute concerts to promote the movie. His great appreciation for the work of other artists and his genuine desire to foster and encourage talent drove Kevin to develop an online community to provide access and communication for aspiring filmmakers and screenwriters. In 2002, he co-founded TriggerStreet.com with producer Dana Brunetti, which provides a platform for writers to showcase their work to a worldwide audience in order to receive constructive feedback and exposure.
It's astounding, how many people go to a site like Trigger Street and just look at the material, let alone the number of real full-time members that we have who just have dedicated themselves to learning and growing as a community and, debating about films and reviews, and they're very active and very loyal, and it's for us, they're the reasons why this site has been a success, is because the community has made it work.
But Trigger Street is just one aspect of Kevin's contribution to the arts. Since 2004, he's all but kissed goodbye to Hollywood to hole himself up in London as artistic director of the Old Vic Theatre. The decision to hire a film star to run one of England's oldest theatres raised some eyebrows, but Kevin was up for the challenge.
There is a remarkable history of actors who both worked in both Hollywood films and yet their first love was the theater. So I hope that tradition will just continue. I think that it will take a while for us to determine what exactly we are, what void, if there is one out there, that we will fill.
His early days in London were marred when he hit the headlines after claiming he'd been mugged while walking his dog in the park at 4 a.m. He later changed his story, saying he'd been conned into lending a phone to a man who then stole it. The story fueled speculation about the confirmed bachelor's sexuality. However, Kevin neatly sidestepped the media's questions and has gone on to make himself very much at home at the Old Vic. In fact, on one of his rare returns to Hollywood to play Lex Luthor in Superman Returns, he couldn't wait to get back.
But I must say this is lovely and this is nice, but I prefer going to work every day quietly and doing all I can on behalf of one of the great British institutions, the Old Vic.
At the age of 11, this actress and singer once faked appendicitis out of boredom. Another little-known fact about Toni Collette is that she was the first choice to star as the romance-obsessed Singleton in Bridget Jones' Diary. She had to turn the part down because of her commitment to a show on Broadway. Since piling on 18 kilos in 7 weeks for the Aussie comedy Muriel's Wedding in 1994, she's wowed Broadway as Queenie in The Wild Party, earned an Oscar nomination for Sixth Sense, and starred in a wide range of mainstream and art house movies, including In Her Shoes with Cameron Diaz.
How did you find the whole premiere experience?
It's interesting. It's actually our midway through. This is our midpoint.
I think it's further than that, actually.
Yeah.
Well, I think it really depends on the film, and with this film we did have a really great experience. It was really satisfying, and we made some good buddies, and it's really, I feel really proud to be able to come to London and stand up and say, you know, here's our movie, we hope you like it.
The film was written off by some as a chick flick.
Well, yeah, I can understand why someone would assume that, because it's about 3 women and told by 3 women, but really it's about family, and it's about what we go through as human beings. So
it's a human experience. It's something that we all, man or woman, we go through evolution and we find out more about ourselves.
It's about embracing change.
Yes.
We all face that.
She embraced Eastern culture in 2004's Japanese Story.
It's such an ancient, very traditional culture, and I think, like I was saying before, I mean, I was in Nepal climbing a mountain and looked down and saw this little hut that had Coca-Cola on the roof, and I was like, oh, this is dismal. And Japan is so its own thing, and it's really something to admire.
Despite 2006 being one of her busiest acting years yet, Toni managed to find the time to release her first album, Beautiful Awkward Pictures, under the band name Toni Collette and The Finish. No doubt spurred on by her muso husband Dave Galafasi, she went on tour. Later in the year, she was able to combine her love of singing with her activist passions, signing up to headline the Sydney leg of the Live Earth concert to raise awareness of environmental issues. She shows the same kind of grassroots commitment to her filmmaking career, supporting small independent festivals like Sundance.
I think it's important because there are so many small films that don't actually get a chance, and Sundance is a festival that promotes a film, no matter how really big the budget, it can be tiny, but if it has a good story, it can still get out there in the world and be seen by audiences, which is why we make it.
Mind you, it was hardly all work and no play.
I went snowboarding. I love swimming in the heated pools and rolling around in the snow. But I think the best part about events like this and festivals is that you get to hang out with your mates that you worked with, because you have such an intense experience, and then I fly back to Australia, and so it's nice to get together again and have some fun.
And if snowboarding at Sundance was fun, being invited to sit on the Cannes Film Festival jury in 2007 was an absolute blast.
I was sitting in a makeup chair earlier in the year, and I said to my makeup artist, how does one get chosen to be on the jury at Cannes? It'd be bloody amazing. And then a couple of months later, out of the blue, it was there. So it came in an email. I said,
I shall have to think about it. I'll do it. I'll do it!
This night rider has admitted that he preferred the company of his hotel minibar over the attractions of bikini-clad women during the filming of Baywatch. But then David Hasselhoff's long-running love affair with the bottle is no state secret, especially after a leaked home video of him rolling around on the floor in an attempt to find his mouth with a hamburger. Months before that, he'd been in the news after inexplicably hitting his head on a chandelier in a London bathroom and severing a tendon in his arm. Days later, with his arm still bandaged, he was banned from boarding a flight because a flight attendant made an educated guess that he'd been drinking. Despite his miserable record, just a few days after the damning video came to light, David was handed sole custody of his 2 daughters at the conclusion of his long and bitter divorce battle with the girl's mother, Pamela Bark. The miraculous outcome had some radio shock jocks wondering just how bad a mother that would have had to make Pamela. And a gloating Hoff took the opportunity to hit back at the press.
Nice day to be at the beach, huh? What are you guys all doing here?
Despite his little outburst, it's fair to say that David truly subscribes to the theory that there is no such thing as bad publicity. He's certainly never afraid to embarrass himself in front of the camera. On a trip to Australia in 2006, he dug up an old song by Ted Mulry and parodied his own 80s Knight Rider image.
I like to have as much fun with my characters I play as everyone else does. And, you know, I actually went on television and took on all of Australia with my own T-shirt that said, "Don't hassle the Hoff." And when you see that, that's mine. And so we found a Knight Rider car. We found a song called "Jump in My Car" with the Status Quo guitars. A guy named Harry Vanda, who was kind of a legendary writer here years ago, who wrote "Love Is in the Air." He wrote "Friday on My Mind." And Ted Mulry was. He was a bit of a legend, too, who wrote the song. He passed away of cancer, but they also said he would have a great sense of humor and he would have loved it. So we went and we found an alley, got 3 girls, and a Knight Rider car, shot this thing in literally 4 hours, and it's been downloaded over 4,200,000 times.
And it's not the first time that the boy from Baltimore has had the last laugh. Back in 1989, after being cast in Baywatch, the series got cancelled after only 1 season. Dancing to the beat of his own drum, the Hoff backed his hunch that the show had potential, ploughing his own money into a second series and signing on as executive producer. The show ran in syndication for another 10 seasons, and according to the Guinness Book of Records, Baywatch is the most watched TV show in the world. And the success of the show, along with David's other ventures, have put his estimated fortune at $100 million. And while his home country may write his music off as a joke, he's enjoyed amazing success as a singer in Europe since 1989, when his hit "Looking for Freedom" became something of an anthem in Eastern European communist regimes. Esteemed writer and director Mel Brooks certainly appreciated his charms when casting for the Las Vegas version of his hit musical, The Producers.
Because we have been blessed with somebody who has the prerequisites to be a star. The guy is tall, the guy is handsome, and is perfect for Roger Dupree because he has the best legs in Hollywood. This guy is, I'm talking about David. I won't bring him out. David Hasselhoff has looks, brains, and talent. And these 3 things can make you a star.
And as usual, the Hoff, who shamelessly markets his own "Don't Hassle the Hoff" t-shirts from his website, was game for a laugh.
We didn't think you wanted to wear a dress. And I said, you know, it's a funny role. I said, if it's Mel Brooks and he wants me to play it, I'll do it.
He also signed up to take the mickey out of himself in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie and John Waters' 2004 film A Dirty Shame, which required him to defecate in an airplane washroom. In 2006, it must have been a relief to be cast in a film as someone other than himself. In Click, he got to play Adam Sandler's despicable boss. Proving that he's so much smarter than he looks, the Hoff saved himself so much hassle at the premiere.
Oh, I was signing him in the car on the way over because I know there's so many fans that come in and, you know, all they want to do is take away a souvenir. So I think ahead and then everyone walks away happy. In fact,